I mean, the history that is here. For example, that old Chicago music store over there in the corner. It's been here since 1919. I know the weather is on and off with the rain. Are you in a rush?
So that was where we picked up, or we left off, I'm sorry, last time when I did a walkthrough for the indie the indie short film called Between You and Me. I wrote it, shot it, directed it, and edited the film, and starring Callie Hutchinson and Julio Garcia. Um, so basically what I did last time, going off of the first section of this film, was just a little verbal walkthrough. So I was just thinking, let's just go ahead and pick it up, and I'll give you guys great little tidbits and just great pieces of information from the shoot itself. I don't have any behind the scenes footage that anybody shot, like from the set or whatnot. But this is still a lot of great information that I can give you. So let's go ahead and share the screen and go to that. So basically right here. Cool, full screen. So what we have is Julio Garcia playing the role of Luis and Callie Hutchinson playing the role of Alejandra Viramontes, aka Alex. They meet at a bus stop. They both realize that they are both students at the university. There's some chemistry there, and so he says, "Hey, can I get a little bit more of your time by offering her?" She's studying architecture, and so he's like, "Hey, do you know about downtown Tucson's architecture? It's some of the best architecture in the Southwest with regards to the history behind the buildings." And so she says, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "You have some time to show you around." And so we embark on our journey of downtown. So let's go ahead and just kind of go through this a little bit. So he's taking her, there's obviously some chemistry, but the thing is that it's I wanted to keep this film basically just to kind of spoil the film, or I'm going to throw one spoiler out. There's not even a kiss in this movie, but there's chemistry, and there are instances where the chemistry is pretty obvious. And so Julio Garcia and also Callie Hutchinson, they did a great job, but the story is the romance itself is besides the point, because there are other things at play in this movie. So they did it masterfully, and a lot of the chemistry is done on the basis of, in this section of the film, the architecture that he explains to her. So let's go ahead and jump on into that.
This is the original tile. Whenever the city granted some money to the store for facade restorations, they immediately took care of the corners up there. They were all chipped off, painted over them. It looks beautiful now. Okay, right here with the glasses, used to be an old board.
Okay, so right here, our first stop was the old Chicago music store. Now, I strategically wrote in all of the locations. These are, what was that? I strategically wrote in a lot of these downtown Tucson landmarks that have been there for some at least 100 years, like, for example, the old Chicago music store. As a cameraman in my day job, I got sent one day to cover, I think there were city council members and also the county board of supervisors that were there, and they were present because there was a program called the Facade Restoration Program, which basically paid funds. And I believe this is the way it works, so don't quote me, exactly, but I believe the way it works is if I have an old historic building, I apply for the facade restoration funds, I get those funds, and then I hire the professionals necessary to then kind of basically peel back the layers of either paint or wood that had been placed and layered over the original very, very, very beautiful architecture of downtown Tucson. And so that's a real program that I think I went to that news story. It was a press conference right downtown. I want to say back in 2012, 2013. And so I thought that would be a cool thing to throw in there, is for Luis to be telling Alex about this real program and incorporate it into the chemistry between the two of them. And she's finding it fascinating. He's having a great time talking about it also, because he's kind of a nerdy brainiac. So he's trying to win the girl over, so to speak, or woo her at the very least, with smarts. you know, not because he's like being a macho man or like that's not the type of character I wanted. When I wrote Luis, I wanted him to be exactly this this intellectual guy that in the previous scene explained that he's got a widow or he's a widow, and he also has a daughter. So you know he's an older guy, but he's going to school. But he's you know he's got a deceased wife and life carried on, and so but he's smart, he's intelligent, and so again, not that type of romance movie. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's a facade project. Let's keep on moving forward. So it was actually raining. If we go back to this wide shot right after they take off. Okay, so here's this wide shot, right? You can clearly see it says at the very top, Chicago Music Store. The facade restoration program had already started with the Chicago Music Store. So the glass that he's going to reference coming up here in the scene, it was all boarded up. I remember when it was boarded up by wood, and it said in even bigger letters, Chicago Music Store. And it when you go inside, man, this place is magical on the inside. I mean, literally the architecture in the roof is from, I want to say, turn of the century in like 1900s, late 1800s. And so, you know, all of that on the facade was boarded up. And so it looks really great nowadays. You know, that black looks really sleek and whatnot. So I'm like, you know, why not feature that? And as you can see at the very bottom right here, the yellow looking pillars, those hadn't been done yet. And I don't think those have been redone. So I think those are still there, if I'm not mistaken, or if I haven't been down to the Chicago Music Store lately. Now, again, if you look at the ground right here next to the hydrant, it was literally raining. So yes, it rains in the Sonoran Desert, El Desierto Sonorense. That's just the desert that we call it out here in Tucson, Arizona, because Arizona borders our neighboring Mexican state of Sonora. So you have the Sonoran Desert, and it rains in the desert. And this was, I think we shot this in January. A little different to be raining in January, but nevertheless, we caught a rainy day on camera, and they're actually shielding themselves from the rain. And I had to actually shoot Cali shots standing right next to Julio, right next to his cheek, actually. And same thing for Julio shots right next to Cali. And she's shielding me with her umbrella as well to get the dialogue shots. So let's keep on going.
The city granted some money to the store for facade restorations. They immediately took care of the corners up there. You know, they were all chipped off. We painted over them. It looks beautiful now. Okay, right here with the glasses, used to be an old board. You see that old picture?
Okay, so right here, then he references this old picture. And just like I was saying, if you guys can see my cursor, this is actually that big board that had in much bigger letters the words Chicago Music Store. Those were the boards that I was telling you were taken down to expose this beautiful stained glass. So watch.
Sure, right there, it says Chicago. That was the board that was there. As soon as they took the board down, this beautiful stained glass, decades old.
So that shot just happened to be there, that photo in the window. And I thought, you know, why not have him reference that? Because it's so much a part of the story that he's trying to convey to her about the history of the architecture of this building. And so that's why, you know, I stood behind him, third angle from behind them, to shoot the store itself, the old photo that he's referencing, as we pan up, not the greatest of pans, but as we pan up and we see the glass that he's talking about.
As soon as they took the board down, this beautiful stained glass, decades old. But of course, it took a while and some hard work to restore it, to bring it back to original state. It's beautiful. I love it.
All right, cool. So that was the Chicago Music Store. So again, this is an example. The Chicago Music Store, same thing with a bunch of other examples here in downtown Tucson. All I'm doing is using my surroundings and incorporating the stories behind those surroundings into this story right here. And it works out just fine because one character is explaining to another character the history of these places. So the real life stories in my surroundings, or in our surroundings here in downtown Tucson, Arizona. Not that I live downtown, I don't live downtown, but they served this story. So pretty cool.
What is this place?
This used to be the old Main County Courthouse. Before this beauty, they used to have big brick building, Victorian style. And then they did a couple restorations, but then they decided to demolish it. Then they came up with this beauty. You can see that Moorish and Spanish colonial look.
Okay, so all of the information that Luis just told Alex right here with regards to the Spanish colonial look, the Moorish architecture of the high arcs, etc. You guys, I just dug that up from obviously credible sites with the county, since this is an old county courthouse. And it's just about digging up some good information, but the information does have to be solid. It has to be, from a real, from a legit source, because you don't want somebody calling you out and, later on being like, well, that's dumb because that's not true. It's like, just do a little due diligence. You're going to find the right information, the correct information from good, reliable, solid sources out there. So all of that was just information that I researched, again, from the Pima County website. Like the historical section, I believe. I haven't been on there in a few years, but that's where I got that information. Again, I just incorporated it into this story.
These arches are beautiful.
What do they do here?
People come out here and pay their tickets, register their blueprints, and get married.
Cool, great nap sound. So let's go back to this moment right here. Julio Garcia executed this beautifully.
Here.
She asks, what do they do here at the old county courthouse? Well, it's a courthouse, it's all government functions and whatnot. But the thing is that I wanted Callie's character, Alex, to ask that question for it to be a pretext for Luis to, just kind of say, well, just the regular courthouse type of stuff. Blueprints, they come to what else does he say?
People come out here and pay their tickets.
Pay their tickets. Pay their tickets.
Register their blueprints.
Register blueprints.
And get married.
Okay, so and get married. So, and yes, I myself have been to a good handful of weddings at the Pima County courthouse. One time in this old courthouse, now they're held at a newer facility, a new county facility. But then he does this thing. He takes a moment. We notice the irony of the moment that he takes, but that she does not notice. Let's look at that. He looks at Alex, Callie, but she didn't notice the moment of pause that he took. I love that moment because when Julio Garcia executed on that moment, when he looks down for just a moment
and get married.
He says, people pay their tickets, they register their blueprints, and they get married. But it's when he hits that moment of they get married, he takes that pause. You could tell it's a moment of sadness. And so, what is this subtext alluding to? A lot of times in filmmaking, some of the things that are most powerfully communicated are not the things that are verbally said. They're the things that are displayed right here, and they are the things that are acted out. And so here, Julio, in the character of Luis, drops some massive subtext without answering any questions, but he inspired a lot of questions, like, was this the place that him and his, former wife got married? Does this place bring back a lot of memories, happy memories, pain? But despite whatever the answers were to all of that, we were given literally, verbally, from a verbal sense, no answers, but Julio Garcia gave us a tremendous amount to work with in just that moment of pause. So then, he drops his head, goes down, comes back up, like he's catching his breath to then be able to still carry on and put whatever he went through in that moment behind him. He experienced it, he processed it for that very short moment, then he put it behind him, as indicated by his breath, lifts his head back up and looks at Alex. So maybe an old memory comes back. I don't know. That's the beauty of subtext, is you're communicating without communicating, and Julio did that masterfully. And when Luis looks at Alex, he's kind of okay with the fact that, she didn't even she didn't even catch that moment that he experienced because she is so in awe with all of the architecture that he just explained. So moving on again. So here in the old county courthouse, one of the things that has changed is that you can tell that I had a fisheye on here because on the vignettes of the frame, they're not quite like this. They're more like bent in like this. You can barely tell. It's very subtle, but the thing is that I had this I had this very crappy generic fisheye lens that came along with my Canon Rebel T2i, which is what we shot this movie on. And so, you know, it has this weird bend off to the sides, but yeah, it works. You know what I mean? Like, it establishes the space and all the space that they're looking at. But unfortunately, since then, you cannot see it, but they had the street behind it. Maybe I can get another shot where, okay, maybe right here. Okay, so right here, if you take a look at the plans, out on the street where the county property meets the physical street, there is now, like, you can't just walk into it nowadays. Now there's a fence, and that fence, it's not high. It's probably like 4 feet tall, so it's kind of like your white picket fence on the front end of your property at, you know, in your average neighborhood. But now there's a fence, and they do lock it on the weekends. I'm going to say because it's not for regular traffic anymore. There are some other businesses in this county complex now, so it's not really used for you know, regular court stuff anymore. One of the big major things coming up this coming January is the January 8th memorial. January 8th, 2011. There was an attempt on the life of then Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, and she was injured. Many other people were injured, and I believe it was 6 people unfortunately lost their lives when a gunman opened fire at what was known as Congress on Your Corner, which are the events that Gabby Giffords was holding on a regular basis. Basically, you can come out every Saturday morning. She'd have a different one at a different location in the community, and you can basically meet your congresswoman. And you know, she shakes your hand. You guys chit chat, and so that's what happened on January 8th, 2011, and that date is now going to be memorialized with the January 8th, 2011, or the January 8th memorial that they're actually building on the other side of the complex right here. So the complex is going to be, it's basically been repurposed, and it's still a gorgeous complex. It's just not, it's not openly accessible now with the fence. So let's keep on moving forward.
Old Main County Courthouse.
Oh,
The critic. Oh my. That was only. It was fun. But a shrine.
all right, cool. So let's go ahead and stop right here, and I'm going to jump back into it verbally. So right here, oh, all right, so these are other sections of downtown Tucson. This is Stone Avenue, and this building is the San Agustin Cathedral. It's one of the oldest cathedrals in the Southwest. Beautiful, gorgeous architecture. And so it's just one of those buildings that you could not exclude because of how massively old and how massively significant it is in Tucson, Arizona. Another one also you can kind of see over here, though it's not being centrally featured within the frame, is Carrillo's Mortuary. Carrillo's Mortuary is a mortuary that's been there since, I believe the year is 1910. I'm probably getting that wrong, so, you know, forgive me if I am. But, you know, again, historic buildings that have been there for the longest time. I mean, just, I'm as you can probably tell, a little bit of a geek for, you know, just local living history and the buildings and the stories behind them. So this this building right here, this is the I I don't know if they still refer to it as the Bank of America building. It was at least the Bank of America building. This building, and then you can kind of see this other one here, the county legal building. Those two buildings were actually in the background of that 1980s film Can't Buy Me Love before this one was built. I'm not sure when the Unisource building was built. I just haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure it's easy to find out. But basically this downtown skyline, which is not a very tall skyline, but it's our little skyline and we love it. It was in that movie Can't Buy Me Love, and so I thought it's kind of cool that we feature that. And they're just, the rain is just kind of going off and on, and so that's why they got their umbrellas open in some shots and closed in others. So now we're in what's known as Barrio Viejo, the old barrio. Barrio Viejo, the architecture here is really interesting because you have, from what I've been told, from what I've read, you have some houses that are highly propped up. I can imagine because of floods. But here's the most impressive thing that I've come to understand about Barrio Viejo. A lot of these spaces are occupied by like lawyers' offices nowadays. A lot are still inhabited by people living there too. Some of maybe the original families and the descendants of the families of people who've lived there for a long time back in the day. And people new to the Barrio Viejo. So you can tell they can have like the high ceilings and the high doors right here. So the way it was explained to me is that by somebody who lived in one of the old buildings in the Barrio Viejo, is that these buildings actually go back to the days, well, some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them go back to the days of when Tucson, Arizona was still Mexico, when it was still Mexico. And so that's why the architecture is different. That's why you have a variety of architecture with regards to the houses. But I'm so fascinated by this area. And so I actually live on the other side of town, but still love to just kind of go through there every now and then, either for a walk or just a drive through during my work hours if I'm in the neighborhood. And so I thought, you know what, let's have them walk through. This is a very historic place, except by this point in time, we get it. Luis is telling Alex, like, the history of this building and this other building, this other building. So that's why here it turns more into a montage of them just walking by very historic places. But the fact that they're historic, well, we get that. We understand that. So same thing with, first I had the actors actually walk this way, and then now we're walking that way. So we basically went back and forth on the street just to get them walking on both sides, good long stretches of time. So as you can see right here, not super steady, but kind of a steady cam, but not super steady, because that's me on the hood of a vehicle being driven by a former friend. And I thought I'd basically turn the hood into a Steadicam, and it kind of works. So I've done that tons of times. You just have to do it very carefully. You can't drive like crazy, and the hood definitely can't be slick and smooth. That way you don't slide off. But I'm basically sitting on the hood, and the vehicle's going very slow to track their walking. Okay, so now here's where we really go into it.
That building.
Let's go ahead and let me go ahead and go back just a little bit. Gonna let this play out, and then I will lay down the history as Luis lays down the history of El Tiradito, the shrine known El Tiradito, which is just south of downtown.
Not a building, but a shrine. El Tiradito. It's known as a wishing shrine. People say that in the 1870s, there used to be a love triangle that ended up in a murder of a chief herder. His name was Juan.
What does El Tiradito mean?
The castaway. This is the only shrine in the U.S. that is dedicated to the soul of a sinner, buried in an unconsecrated ground. People come out here and write their wishes, light up their candles. you know, with the hopes that someday their wishes will become true.
So again, the El Tiradito Shrine, El Tiradito is Spanish for the castaway, because based on this this legend that has been documented to have happened, it was a love triangle that happened in the area. Um, there was a sheep herder named Juan, from what I understand. Yeah, you can actually see the A on Sentinel Peak, aka a mountain. That A is for the University of Arizona. Go Wildcats! So yeah, El Tiradito is a shrine that's based on this legend of this love triangle that ended really like tragically wrong. If you guys look it up, and it's fascinating because people still do go to this day pretty often to leave flowers, to leave candles. And then I don't know if you can see right here, we didn't have like, Luis verbally mentions the fact that people write their wishes on pieces of paper. Well, what people do then is leave those wishes on the piece of paper and they insert them, they leave them in the holes of the shrine. Now, I know that there's more history that I'm probably not telling you about the El Tiradito Shrine. Definitely a meeting point for a lot of community organizations that want to use El Tiradito Shrine as, you know, the meeting point, so that, you know, if there's a march or if there's a gathering downtown, El Tiradito is one of the spots where people usually say, you know, like, let's meet there. But again, I know that I'm not telling you the entire history. I really strongly encourage you to look it up. El Tiradito, ELTIRADITO, Tiradito Shrine. And so again, another example of using your surroundings and then taking those stories to incorporate into this story of Luis meeting Alejandra and showing her around. And you're going to see she's fascinated. And then he's like, hey, well, I can tell you more over dinner. And then, you know, she's like, all right, cool. So, well, she was like more like, okay, it's pretty smooth. Like, you think you're slick, right? But so let's see how that plays out.
Oh my God, I took so much of your time. It's an hour and a half since you've been walking around.
Don't worry about it. This was so neat. I mean, there's so much good architecture and history to go with the buildings.
That was only scratching the surface.
I bet.
Yeah, I can tell you more if you like over dinner.
Pretty smooth, Luis.
Okay, I'll just send you some historical links if you like.
Let's do it.
Sure. Are you on Facebook?
Luis. I meant dinner. Let's do dinner.
I love that look that Julio Garcia gives Callie right there, because he realizes like, oh, like she actually does want to go to dinner. Okay, cool. So, you know, he tried to be Mr. Smooth and whatnot, but she agreed. She's like, okay, let's have some dinner. You know what I mean? And so there's some chemistry here. But the thing is that, like, again, I don't want it to be the classic boy meets girl, boys, you know, woos girl and sweeps her off her feet and she's the damsel in distress. And you know, I wanted a strong, independent, intelligent female who is strong in those senses, but at the same time, you know, still, she can still see that there's chemistry. Her character of Alex can still see that there is still chemistry here at play that she kind of goes along with. He goes along with too. And, you know, Julio Garcia right here is also, again, the character of Luis, that exactly the guy that I wanted, because it's so easy to try to make this a Latin lover, you know, like that nonsense is it like in real life? Are there real life prototypes upon which stereotypes come from? Yeah. Did I want a stereotype in this film? No. Did I want chemistry on the basis of non-stereotypes? Yes. And so the chemistry is still there, but on the basis of non-stereotypes. So you have strong, independent, intelligent female who's a student. He's a student. And that's what I really love about these two characters is that, you know, she's not your classic girl in those senses, like as far as like within the movies. And he's not your classic, you know, like I'm the Latin lover type of, like, I wanted to drop that BS. So yeah, that's the design between the characters. And now here they're holding their umbrellas, and again, the rain is just off and on and off and on. And so by this point in the day, it's probably about we started. Oh man, we probably started at like 9 or 10 a.m. at the bus stop and did the whole downtown thing, and then made our way to here. And then by this point in the day, it's probably about 3 or 4 o'clock, so it's getting dark. And but you know we got to keep moving, we got to keep hustling, and so but the rain was coming off and on and on and on, off and on and on and on, off and on and off and on. And so here again, I'm with the actors underneath their umbrellas, and you know, I'm trying to, and I've got a microphone just out of frame as well, making sure that the camera and the microphone stays dry while at the same time still getting good clean shots of them and good clean audio. And it, you know, there's a lot of, in retrospect, I would have used like a lavalier and just kept it cropped out of frame. Um, I wasn't working with lavaliers too much back then. I do a whole lot more now. And well, you know, like I had basically a directional mic. It's still actually the same mic. Actually, the microphone that I used to shoot the movie is this one right here. So it's one, what is this? Oh my God, I'm blind. Audio-Technica ATR 55. It's an older mic, got the job done, but it picked them up, but it also picked up a lot of ambient sound, you know, so you had the rain really mixed in, but I mean, you know, as long as you can hear them, then it kind of works because I didn't have to do any ADR like rain afterwards when it's literally actually raining, as you can see Julio Garcia's shoulder right here. So yeah, just, you know, got the shots clean, kept the camera and the microphone dry, moved forward. So
Sure. Okay. You know,
so anyway, they now they're, you know, now they're trying to set up dinner, and so they're trying to agree.
but first, I gotta go pick up my medicine for my dog. Why don't we just meet back here?
Okay. It's supposed to clear up. Why don't we meet at 5:30ish?
Yeah, that works for me. Oh, before I leave, what is it that you would like to eat? That way I can look up some places here.
This is kind of random, but I've been missing my mom, and she makes the best tortillas.
Now, Callie as Alex references tortis, which is basically a mispronunciation of the word torta. Uh, Maybe in Spanish, in the English, with the English sound, it's torta. It's basically a Mexican sandwich, and God, there's so many different types. I mean, you can have beans, you can have ham, you can have chorizo, you can have eggs, you can have steak, you can have so many different things. It's basically a delicious Mexican sandwich, and so her character is Mexican, except the detail is you'd never know it. And so she's referencing the tortas her mom used to make by first starting off by mispronouncing them as tortis. And he catches that and corrects her.
What?
You know, El Chavo del Ocho. He eats them sometimes. They're made with ham.
Oh, tortas.
Torta.
Yeah, I know a place.
Okay, so El Chavo del Ocho, that's a reference to, God, a show I want to say late 60s, definitely the 70s and into the 80s, on the Spanish language channel, mainly out of Mexico in, I believe it was, not TV Azteca, but Televisa. And so Televisa is one of the biggest TV networks, and it was a long time running show. It was a comedy show and one of the most popular ones out of Mexico. And so in that show, the main character always ate tortas, and so that was like his thing. Just like Dennis the Menace has a slingshot, and Chavo del Ocho always ate tortas, and so that's what she's referencing. And so when she makes that reference, I know that's going to be a cultural reference that maybe a lot of people won't catch unless you know. So you either are able to pick it up or you don't pick it up. Like it's one of those things where you either know the information or you don't know the information. So she references that information, he gets it right away. Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Here in downtown. Okay, I'll take care of that. I'll see you then. What's your phone number, by the way?
So this shot I love right here because here they are saying goodbye. I kind of did an L cut right here to where we lay the dialogue. I think all he says is, "What's your phone number?" And before we go into this and we bring in the dramatic music.
Tortas. What?
You know,
Tortas.
torta.
Yeah, I know a place here in downtown. Okay, I'll take care of that. I'll see you then. What's your phone number, by the way?
Okay, cool. So I love that previous shot, and that was actually the shot that I selected as kind of the shot for all the posters and when we submitted this film to many film festivals. And so this is kind of the emblematic shot of this short film, and I don't know, I just love it so much. They both have umbrellas. The film's almost perfect, or I'm sorry, the frame is almost perfectly bisected. And all they had to do was do this twice. They shake hands. They shake hands. They smile as they're saying, "Bye. We'll meet here later." And then same thing in the wide shot. Now, you can hear the kind of the piano rhythm where it goes dun dun dun. So a lot of times I like to edit to the rhythm of good music when I find music that I really like. So that's why I go from
What's your phone number, by the way?
1, 2, and then next shot for the next beat. So that's a little bit behind this. We literally spent a day out in the rain. It was actually different because it was a January rain, which means it was a cold rain, which is not. It does happen, but of course, a warmer, hotter rain happens more often here in Tucson, and so it's kind of wet and drenched, like from the waist down. So it was a little miserable in that aspect, but it wasn't too bad. In retrospect, I would have and should have worn shorts, but I had pants on, and I'm just like, okay, it's gonna be cold, but I would have dealt with the cold, but worked comfortably because we were all over downtown, as you saw, up until about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock when we finally left. Now we hadn't fully we had I can't remember actually now. I can't remember if because there's another shot where later on in the timeline of the linear timeline within this story, they're supposed to meet here to go out to dinner. Um, I can't remember if we did that shot by still hanging out here or by going back at another point in time, but I'm going to say we went back and got that shot later with just Callie alone, but we'll see that shot later. So anyway, you guys, I hope you're able to take something away from this, because it's kind of what I've always done. I've always just kind of told, and I'd like to tell very human stories, with an emphasis on a good representation of U.S. Latinos, U.S. Latino narratives, um, and perspectives, utilizing the surroundings, and in this case, the history of the surroundings incorporated into this story to serve the story within this world right here. So, actual places, actual history serving um, a narrative that we're basically playing out here. And so it was one of those where we're basically it's in my opinion like one of my favorite movies that I've done because of how much it builds a story upon Southern Arizona itself, like literally the spots in downtown Tucson, not all of them, but some significant spots, as well as others in Southern Arizona later on, as you'll see. But just goes to show you guys, take a look at what's around you. Um, you take whatever camera, whatever microphones you get, um, take a look at whatever's around you. Take stock of what you have at your disposal. Even if in this case it's just the streets and the locations, and work those into your script, build a story, and that'll provide a lot of production value. Although like basically like we didn't pay for any of this, but look how beautiful it is, and we feature all these different things. Work with what you got, and obviously if you can reach for something more, great. But the thing is that you can also tell a really interesting, very beautiful story with what you do have in your surroundings. And most importantly, so that story, right? And then also, most importantly, or let's say also equally importantly, the acting and the characters. That definitely has to be there. You have to have characters that, you know, obviously are memorable, yada yada yada. But you know, the execution of that. I mean, in this case, Cali and Julio Garcia, man, that was the best. All right, everyone. I hope that you guys are doing good. Run out there, do your thing, tell your stories, use your surroundings, as I showed you in this case. Don't ask for anyone's blessing, anyone's permission. And also, if you haven't done so, once again, please hit that subscribe button as well as that little bell. That way you're notified next time I make a new video. I love you guys, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.